Ah, ah, fuck. Ah! Random buttons are in my. Motherfucker, what? No! There were buttons in my face. Ah, egad. Hello, everybody. What you think? What you think? How we doing? You like her? You've just met the captain of the ship we've been on for the last month. And if you check the panels, you can find out more about her by scrolling down if you're on desktop. Whoa, check it out. Whoa, and there's also a bunch of other panels too that show off stuff. That's so cool. Wow, that's great. You have a mild question. I might not be able to answer it necessarily. Well, I don't think she'd like me answering on her behalf, but if I can answer, I will. Was everyone but you talk like an... No, they talk normal. What do you mean? Skills from on mobile. I think they still show up somewhere though. My lack of ears is finally affecting me. All right. How are we all doing tonight? Hope we all enjoyed our time there. Thank you for doing that little task for Lars there. His job is very hard, and I make it no less hard. So helping him out at all is very appreciated. Actually, hold on, I forgot to do something real quick. Oops. Just gonna rummage around in my desk for a second. Whoa. We're chilling now. We're A-okay. Don't kill him. What the fuck? Don't send him to Valhalla. I need him here. He talks faster like Reed. Yeah, he tends to be like that. He doesn't have time to talk slow. The algebra realm, he could solo that shit. He's pretty smart. Did Lars like the cake I baked him? I didn't hear about it, but I think he did. I didn't hear from him. He probably like ate like half of it one night after his shift, and then like the other half of it that morning, and then just like got to work. He's very busy. Did Lars are trying to go over my union brochures? I'm pretty well. You just had a meeting with him about it, right? right? I don't know necessarily. You just talked to him. Anyway, as you can see on my desk here, as you can see on my desk here, we have two of our items that we've needed for our upcoming job against Anthony DeLuca, the one and only, who has foolishly stashed a, a significant amount of valuables in a relatively unguarded building in Hell's Kitchen, Manhattan. Which, oops for him, but yay for us. We do need a few things before we go in, though, as if we are unclear as to what those are. They are a hook, a bolt, a book, and a heart. I have plans to get the book and the heart, and we currently have the hook and the bolt. We'll actually be going after the book next week, as of Tuesday. I will... I'm paranoid, but this feels like a mild trap. He doesn't know me. I've done worse, too, so... You know, worst case it is, I'll just cut off my leg and leave. Oops. But, so... Next week, I am playing another game in order to get the book. That will be Signalis. I guess I'll announce it here. I'm playing Signalis next week. I'm very excited because that game looks really good. Oh no, not that book. We need a book, and that game's got a book. I know we could do a lot of other things to get a book, but we're gonna get a book one way or another. Yes, next week playing Signalis. Been on a bit of a survival horror kick lately, a little bit. It should be quite fun. It should be a good time. So I'll see you all on Tuesday. Play Terraria SMH. I've played Terraria a bunch of times. Anyway though. So that's the plan for next week. But what's the plan for tonight? Since I have you here, Pockets. I think it's time, because some of you are a little greener than others. This is true. It's time that we, in some way, kind of got your... We need to teach you some stuff, right? Thieving is not easy, necessarily. For everyone, that is. It's easy for some, it's hard for others, okay? It's just the way it goes. Now, that's okay. We can make a real crook out of you, right? But it takes some time and it takes some knowledge, which is why tonight I will be telling you about a few instances of people stealing in a funny way over the course of history. Right? I've prepared about 9 stories for you tonight that I will be recounting very, very loosely. And we're going to talk about them for a little while. And that'll be what we do for this evening. Alright. Let me find some music real quick. The original That's one way you could refer to them, yes. Let's find some appropriate background music. Actually, hold on. Not this one. This one. Actually, hold on. It's very possible that this gets copyrighted. So, not trying to... Hush. Well, many a thing. Usually I just keep a list through self-more people lacking the means to stop an immortal piece of furniture. I mean, hey. Whatever works, man. Let's get that playing. There we go. Very nice. Alright. So, let's go ahead and let's get this started, huh? Everybody keep your hands, feet inside the vehicle, and let's go ahead and get into it. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yep, 9. 9 total stories to tell you this evening. So sit back, relax, get a drink, and we're gonna listen. We're gonna talk about some people who sold some stuff in some kind of funny ways, or notable ways. Not all of them are that funny. We are gonna start out with 2 different thefts of a kind relating to the man Jesse James. Now, you may know of Jesse James. He's a bit of a popular name among people who have stolen shit. Unfortunately, he was a former Confederate. So as much as I would say, oh, like, he's a cowboy, he's cool. He wasn't cool. He was a piece of shit. So no, he wasn't cool, actually. Just because you steal stuff doesn't necessarily make you cool. You have to be cool about it. But so him and his group of people, basically, the first one we'll be talking about here is the Clay County Savings Associate Building robbery. In 1866, so right after the Civil War ended, so Jesse James and his group of people, they're a bunch of former Confederate soldiers and such, and they, because the South has been largely destroyed, their line of work has been removed from them, so what they need to do now, is go and start stealing shit, right? That's what they do. That's the line of work that they choose. And in 1866, at Clay County Savings Association, in February of that year, February 13th, one of the earliest documented daylight bank robberies was performed by Jesse James and his gang. Now, some funny shit kind of happened. They did it. It had like all the classic trappings of a bank robbery at the time, right? Like it was textbook. Like you would see it in a movie. How incredibly cliche it was. 2 dudes enter the bank. They try to make change for a 10, right? And then they stick up the person. They have 2 other people go in the back and just start putting a bunch of money into the vault, or taking money out of the vault and stuff. And other such valuables. And as they ride away, they just shot someone, some 19-year-old, who was killed. And he dies. But so they ran away, pursued by a posse of outraged townspeople. But yeah, so that was one of the first ever instances of bank heists in the modern context of them. Daylight bank heist. What do we think about that? Oh, hold on, no, it was about 10 or 13 men. 4 men is a different heist, sorry. It's a very kind of funny thing that happens with them, right? Like, it's a little bit humorous. Oh, hello, PK. Hello, PK, welcome in. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Welcome. We are just talking about some thefts and such that have happened across history. Right now, we're actually going to snooze the ad for a little bit longer. For as long as I can, at least. Welcome in. For those who do not know me, my name is Pinch. I'm a raccoon and an art thief, and today we are currently briefing people on how to steal shit by telling you about previous times that people have stolen shit. Additionally, earlier you may have met my associate and the captain of my ship, Mariah Time. If you scroll down into the panels, you can get some information on her if you haven't, if you didn't see that already. Yes, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Thank you very much for the raid, PK. Did we get a shout out for PK? We did. Okay, thank you. But yeah, so we just talked about the Clay County Savings Association robbery of 1866, the first daylight, or peacetime daylight bank robbery. Notably, bank robbery is actually a thing that happened a lot by soldiers, which is not surprising necessarily, considering that war for the longest for a very, very long time, has been a means by which to steal shit from other people, whether through extortion or otherwise. It's interesting, though, that no one thought to do it privately until 1866. Like, banks had existed beforehand, but no one thought to do it. No one held up a place and said, "Give me all your shit." Really? But yeah, so that's something that Jesse James is accredited with, as well as our next piece of information that we'll have here. So, ever the site of a couple of firsts, Jesse James and his gang of outlaws, again, not a very cool guy, former Confederate, did in fact do one of, not necessarily the first, but an early train robbery, or an in-movement train robbery. This is something, they're too busy dying from, I don't know, syphilis. In 1873, Jesse James and his crew were in the business of stealing a bunch of shit, as they usually are, and this time their sights were set on a train passing through Aldair, Iowa. Now, people say that this was the first train robbery in the West. It was not. The first one was committed like 20 years earlier, or just under 20 years earlier. While this is an actual plaque that exists in Aldair, Iowa, that is supposed to commemorate the site, they are technically wrong. They don't actually. They were not actually the first to have a train robbery happen. That happened way sooner. So yes, on July 21st, though, of 1873, Jesse James and his crew set their sights on this train that was passing through Aldair, Iowa. So what was supposed to happen? They were supposed to steal $75,000 worth of bullion, which is like gold and other such items, right? Otherwise valuable shit. Right? There's a bunch of valuable things on the train that they wanted to steal. Unfortunately, due to a couple of different means of bureaucracy and otherwise issues, they only... Well, okay. The $75,000 worth of merchandise that they were intending to get their hands on was actually set to be on a different train. So now they're here, they're holding up this train that they're stealing from, and they've got way less money than they came for. They came for $75,000 worth of bullion, which again at the time. Let me really quickly run a inflation counter for you, or inflation calculator for you. Oh, yep. Love the head pats there. Oh my god. Like, money! Freaks. This just used the DeviantArt Texas instrument. No! US, there we go. So in, what are we looking for? 1873 to this year, and we want $75,000. So $75,000 then is worth approximately $1,906,931.25. So they wanted way more than they got, because they only ended up getting about $3,000 in combined stuff. Now, let's be clear. In 1873, $3,000 is still a lot of money. That's worth approximately $76,000 in current currency, in current US dollars. That's a pretty fucking big deal, right? Like, that's good. That's good for them. That's still gonna hold them up for a while. However, it was a gang of people who they had to split this money with, as well as the fact that a lot of it was just taken off of people, which means that there was witnesses. She was very sloppy. They got about 2,000 in actual merchandise off of the train, and about $1,000 in held up money that they took from passengers. But yes, so train robberies don't usually go well. That's why you don't really see them. It's also because, well, people know where they're going. So, hello, Nix. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. We're talking about people who stole shit. And we're talking about Jesse James currently, who's a dickhead. Like, he's a fucking asshole. Crime! Yeah, exactly. I'm glad that we're all so gung-ho about it. I'm very passionate about the subject, as I'm sure you can tell. For everyone coming in, if you've not yet met Mariah Time, she just did, you can check the panels down below to get a little bit of a taste for what she's like. I listen to be quite rude. Persona tells me. I'm crime adjacent, so I'm all ears. Well, I've met my fair share of cowboy types. They think they're a lot cooler than they are. All the confrontation, none of the profit. Right? None of the subterfuge.
Crush the skull, thank you.
Hi, Bonnie. Okay. So there's an ad coming up in a second here. So we're just gonna shoot the shit for a minute while we wait for that to happen, because I do need you all to hear about this well, in about 3 minutes. So we're gonna shoot the shit for a little... Oh, uh-oh. Okay. We're now in a dress for this. I guess I'm presenting very, very important information now. So, yes. We're gonna shoot the shit for a minute. So we've now talked about 2 different heists or acts of theft that have been attributed to Jesse James and his gang in the past. And again, Jesse James are dickheads. I don't like that guy. He's a dick. He's also a former Confederate. I cannot hit this home enough. He's a fucking asshole. If you're gonna hold a cowboy, like, to a high standard or something, don't make it Jesse James. He's got a cool name, I'll give you that. But that's it. He did a couple things early, and he had a cool name, but that was it. But yes. Wow, it's so cool. So cool. How's everybody doing tonight? Everybody got a drink, by the way? Got a beverage? I've got some funny thefts to tell you about in a minute here. These 2 were both, like, real, like, actual things. But I've got a few here that are, like, that are kind of silly coming up. I'm excited to share them with you. The last few are very silly. The last 4 are very silly. Free from work now, I'm cooking and learning crime. Hell yeah. What you cooking? Add in 1 minute. Sorry. We gotta keep the lights on somehow. Stealing. But, ad revenue's nice every now and again. Some tilapia. Very nice. Very cool. Cook up that fish, and cook it right so you don't die. Or get sick, rather. You wouldn't die from eating fish. Well, I mean you specifically. Someone else might, but... You're stronger than that. Eat food, played the game of all time, and now I'm here. Hell yeah. How'd the rest of Balan go, by the way? You said the game of all time. Was it just wildly uninteresting? That's what I've heard. is that it's just really wildly uninteresting. You know what? You know what? Here, when we get back from the ad real quick, when we get back from the ad in a second, I'll actually swap back over to the little cinematic thing. You're just kind of seeing it again. Don't worry. It'll just be a quick break from the meeting to go talk to... Oh. OMG, hello Chance. Hello, welcome in. You might be a little late to the meeting, but that's okay. That's okay. We appreciate it. You're fashionably late. Welcome in. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Pinch. I'm a raccoon and an art thief. And today, I am here to, as your boss, to tell you all about how people have stolen some shit in the past. You missed a little bit, but we're going to go back, actually, in a second here, in about a minute. And we're going to go back, and I'm going to show it to you again, just for fun. Very happy that everyone's here tonight. I think I actually want to finish on Linky Will. Interesting. I wonder if you'll still have that attitude soon. The ad is in progress. We're going to wait for it to end. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to pause our music here. Our very, very good, very fun music. I'm going to go over to the scene. We're going to show it to you, okay? Really quickly. Hold on. There's that. Alright, I'll see you in a second. Whoa! Wow. So awesome. Now, look at what you got out of that, guys. That's so great. And y'all say that I don't do anything for you. She's Australian. She called them that because she's Australian. It's normal for her. It's a term of endearment. They're good friends, I think. I don't know, actually. I'm not. Let it never be said that I don't do stuff for you, because you guys just got your employment benefits with Lars set up. That's dental and medical. Alright? That's pretty good, isn't it? Right? And you have a new boss who's not me as well. Well, I'm still your boss, but you have another boss, because while you're on the boat, she's your boss. Yes, the Florentine is my own, but something that I can't necessarily run myself. So, we have the Captain Mariah Time, the self-proclaimed pirate queen of the pockets. Yes, she's lovely. You'll be seeing a lot more of her. She's usually just up in her little captain's bay, doing her thing, piloting the ship. You know how it goes. But yes, thank you all very much for being here. Today, I am making sure that you are all briefed and ready to go in terms of actually being able to steal shit. And to do that, I'm telling you about some times that people have stolen some shit in the past. As you can see, this is a plaque right here that is in Aldair, Iowa, that falsely commemorates a theft in 1873 of a train passing through Aldair, Iowa to Jesse James, but it falsely attributes it to being the first ever train robbery. This is not true. The first one happened some odd 20 years beforehand. Whoops. He also managed to fuck up and not get the $75,000 he was looking for. He only got $3,000. Whoops. Darn. But let's go ahead and move on now. Let's move to another theft. Another instance. And it's time. Packmakers love to falsify for effect. Absolutely. This image right here, this stylish image, is here to commemorate the Manhattan Savings Institution heist of 1878. So, this one is neat, because the Gilded Age and urban centers in the United States of America were a very interesting time to be a thief. It was a very, very interesting time to be a thief or a safe maker. Around the time, there was something of an arms race, as it were, of people who were getting increasingly good at cracking safes, and people who were making increasingly hard to crack safes. And now, to this point, people were generally to the point today where people have a lot of faith in a lot of safes. They shouldn't. Not all of them are very easy to crack, but they do have professionals for that. It's not exactly easy. It's just not exactly the world's hardest thing there. Yes. So this specific heist is reminiscent, or rather, what am I saying? This heist was planned by one George Leslie, who fans of the trade will know as an architect turned criminal. Now, he was responsible for an estimated roughly 80% of bank robberies in the United States from 1869 to 1878. That means all of them. That means 4 out of 5 bank robberies in the US he had a hand in them in some way or another. That's crazy. That's fucking nuts, especially for the Gilded Age, right? People started stealing stuff a lot around the late 19th century in the United States, right? It was a big time for stealing. There were like the outlaws out west. There were lots and lots of folks who were just taking a bunch of shit. And George Leslie was a man who used his career as an architect to actually enhance his ability to steal shit. And it's very funny that he did, because he does it in a cool way. He is the brains behind all of the operations that he's related to. He's like the leader of their gang, right? So, in this specific instance, talking about the Manhattan Savings Institution heist, in October of 1878, $2.7 million, or adjusted for inflation, $82,379,430, which was a record for the time, was taken from the Manhattan Savings Institution, of course, Manhattan, New York, located currently. Unfortunately, George Leslie was killed beforehand by one of his own men over a dispute of a kind. However, he was so good at planning that it went off completely without a hitch, regardless. He planned it so well that not a damn thing went wrong. That's crazy. Like, he was dead, and they followed it to a T while he was dead. And it went fine. Also, my audio is peaking a lot right now. Sorry. I'm gonna turn it down a bit. That should be fine. Okay. So, now, what exactly did they do? What exactly did they do? What was the plan here? How did they pull this off? They pulled this off in a few specific ways. The first of which, so a couple of masked men broke into a janitor's apartment. The janitor lived in the same building as the bank itself, right? He lived above it. They threatened him and his family to give them the codes to the vault. Now, so far we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good here, right? We're pretty good. They're in masks. They're taking precautions to conceal their identity. For most people, that's something very important. And they threatened his family. What's he gonna do? Not give it up? Like, come on. It's pretty important. And he's just a janitor too, so he doesn't have a ton of stake in it. He just happens to know things, right? So no, good selection, good work all around so far here. Now, so the outer vault was what they needed the code to, because that would have just taken them a lot longer to actually crack that. Now, what they did is it entirely sure that they would have needed to crack, or that they wouldn't have needed to crack it, provided that they got, or that it would have been a problem to crack it based on these people? Maybe not, because once they got to the inner walls of the vault, of course there were more locks as well that they had to go through. They did not do any blasting of a kind whatsoever, which typically would have been done with gunpowder and then dynamite much later on, but dynamite was rather unrefined at the time, so gunpowder was very easy to just kind of place in the lock and light up, and then it would destroy the lock, right? So it was an unbelievably clean job. Like, they did it with state-of-the-art tools. These were career criminals, which I can respect. I love that. We love career criminals here. On principle, that is. There were only about 6 people actually involved with the heist itself. And, so 6 people taking $2.7 million, that's about, like, roughly $500,000 each, give or take some. That's a pretty fucking good turnout. And again, consider that adjusted for inflation, that is the equivalent of $82 million. These people were A-okay for the rest of their fucking life. And I don't believe they were ever caught. I'm pretty sure. I'm relatively certain. It was referred to as the heist of the century at the time. Which, I mean, to have something called the heist of the century, that is an honor. That is an honor. Theft is fun and profitable. That it is. All right. So what have we learned? What have we learned from this specific instance? We have learned that a very good way to steal things is to be very prepared, as these people were. And George Leslie is a very, very important figure in the history of Gilded Age theft. And we could probably talk about just his work for an entire stream if we wanted to. And we might sometime, because he does some pretty cool shit. This just happens to be the last thing he had his hands in because he got killed. Whoops. But yes, so what have we learned? Be prepared. Be very prepared. Do your research. Now, let's go ahead. Let's hit something a little bit closer to home. As we know, I am an art thief by trade. That's my preference. It's what I stole first. It's what I'll probably steal last. Yes. Art theft, it has a very, very close... It is very close to my heart, right? So let me tell you about the first ever known art heist. It was not me, unfortunately. But someone had to do it first. And that someone was... Well, it didn't... It's a little hard to describe. But they were Polish pirates, actually. Pirates were the first people to perform an art heist. And it wasn't like yarg, arg, pirates, it was 1473 at the time, which means that it was not quite the same. They were Polish. What did they steal? Bronze art. So they boarded a ship that was en route to Florence, and they stole Hans Memling's The Last Judgment, which is this painting right here. So it's a triptych that envisions the second excuse me. That envisions the second coming of Christ. And they brought it home, and that was the first ever recorded art heist. What's interesting, actually, is that so it was actually very easy to figure out who got it and who they gave it to, because it was a very high profile piece of art, right? So whoever had it, it was pretty well known, whoever had it, right? Now here's, actually, hold on, I just realized we don't have music playing. I had music playing. Let me do that again. I forgot. Anyway, so it became very easy to do, but it was, despite it being super easy to figure out who had it, no one cared, because it got into the hands of royalty. And when something gets into the hands of royalty, that means that it's theirs now. That's how that works. So you know what the best way to steal something is? Be royalty. It's that easy. If you are just of a very, very high tier background, that means you can do whatever you want. The first recorded art heist was in the 1400s, so yeah, right? People have probably taken drawings from each other for millennia, but the quote-unquote art heist was this one. So we've talked about a lot of very specific time periods that actually all predate me as well. But let's go ahead. Let's bring it back a bit. Let's bring it forward to where we know now. Let me tell you about the Baker Street robbery. Art theft is 100% happened in Sumeria, but I guess they didn't fire their tablets for those ones. Yeah, right. Let me talk about the 1971 Baker Street robbery. So, in 1971 in London, England, Lloyd's Bank, in London, of course, was stolen from. The question is how. Let me tell you about their plan. This is funny. So there were 4 men, about 2 weeks-ish prior to the heist. They rented out the place 2 doors down, the place Sack there. Right, you see that? That was a leatherworking shop nearby. They rented it out, and then they spent that 2 weeks drilling a hole underneath the place, over and underneath the vault of the location of Lloyd's Bank, and then they blew it open from underneath. What were they interested in? They were interested in stealing 268 safety deposit boxes, which totaled to roughly about $9 million worth of shit today. So they made out like bandits. I don't believe this was actually ever solved. No one knew who did this. However, there were many, many theories. Some people claimed that this was actually done by MI5, which, if you're not familiar, is a English sort of, not necessarily like a secret service, but it's like a secret agency of a kind, right? Some people thought that it was done by MI5 in order to retrieve scandalous photographs of Princess Margaret, in order to maintain a degree of cover-up, so as to not let the monarchy be tarnished in any way. Of course, that is technically a conspiracy theory, but it's fun to talk about. So we're going to spread maybe a little misinformation as a treat. Don't take that as fact, though. We don't know if MI5 did it. Could be, could not be. But ultimately, the Baker Street robbery is a funny-ass instance of theft Because, because when you really talk about it, the sorts of things that people end up doing in order to steal things are usually very comical. For instance, digging underneath a bank and then digging up into it in order to steal from it. That's hilarious. And then the fact that it worked? Are you kidding me? Come on. That is so funny. But yes, never solved. Never solved. So what have we learned? Be funny about it. It's good to have style. And do your research. So do your research, be good at your job, and be funny about it. Those are the tenets of theft. But we're going to talk about it a little bit more. I got 4 more heists for you to talk, for us to talk about today. All right. So, let me tell you about the time that a bunch of villagers in Komarovo, Russia, stole an entire church. They stole a church in 2008. You might be wondering, Pinch, how the fuck did they steal a church? That's a building. How did they steal a church? That you can't just pick those up. To which I say, they did! No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm sorry. As much as I would like to tell you right now that they just took it and pushed it somewhere else and called it stealing, I'm afraid that is not what they did. So a businessman was near... You've heard of shoplifters. Now get ready for church lifters. Unfortunately, that is not what they did. They did not lift the church. What happened was a businessman nearby was in the interest of purchasing bricks, and the villagers of the town found an opportunity to get a bit of extra money because the church was abandoned. So what they did was this abandoned church, they just would one by one kind of take sums of like 20 bricks or so and sell it to this dude. So to the tune of about 1 ruble per brick, they ended up selling the church using stolen materials. They stole the materials and sold them to this businessman for about 1 ruble per brick. But so over time, they sold all the bricks. They sold the whole thing to the guy. So they stole it piece by piece and sold it to this man. So they stole an entire church. It's the Church of Theseus, truly. Is it still a church if you just sell a bunch of bricks? That's the question. That is the question. So, what do we learn from this? Sometimes it's best to do things in small increments. Now let me tell you about another funny one. And, oh, also, I don't believe anyone was ever indicted for this, actually, as A, the church was abandoned, B, it was like everyone in the town. Like everyone did this. This one will be funny. It takes a village to steal a church. Alright. Let's go ahead and hit this next one. This one is quite funny as well. It's not a heist so much as a demolition. It's a heist in name. Whoa. So, in case you're unaware, black truffles are pretty fucking expensive. They're a pretty hot commodity among the culinary industry, right? People are pretty excited about black truffles. They're very expensive to use, and they provide very, very specific flavors that you can't really replace otherwise. Black truffles are tough, right? Which means that in 2005, of course, why not would they not be stolen? In 2005, there was a, like, actual, legitimate, major theft operation dedicated towards stealing a fuck ton of truffles from a warehouse in Provence, France. So let me give you the game plan for these people. They repelled into the building, right? They repelled into the building from windows at the ceiling, and used like night vision goggles and shit to get into the actual to see their way around, and ultimately, through this Splinter Cell ass maneuver, they stole $100,000 worth of black truffles for resale on black markets and such. Yeah, how about that? So what is this? What else does this tell us? Get creative about what you take, because there's value in many, many things. Other species of black truffle exist, but they aren't as sought after as the Paragold black truffle, which has unique patterning and a stronger aroma. I'm unsure if it was specifically Paragold, but probably. Why would you do this for anything less than the best, right? I have 2 more heists to tell you about. I'm gonna steal 1 million toothpicks. I think that one tree could make about 1 million toothpicks. I don't think that's going to be very lucrative. Good shot, but maybe try something else. Alright, I got 2 more things to tell you about. Steal 1 million olives to put on the toothpicks. Let me tell you about what is called the 300 million yen heist. In 1968, I believe. Let me actually really quick. I might have written down the year wrong. I think it was 68. Okay. So yes, in 1968, a small bank in Japan had multiple bomb threats called into like a manager-specific house. They were never fulfilled. No one actually placed any bombs. There was never any bombings that occurred. But the bomb threats created an opening for one man who would do the following. So, this man, or rather, this truck, right? Heist Japan. So this truck gets stopped by this guard. And this guard says, "Hey, for one reason or another, we think that your truck is a target for bombing. There's been these bomb threats lately. So we need to check the truck." And the guard has the 2 people who are working in the armored truck get out, right? And, they get out. And, they get out, and the guard checks it. He gets underneath the truck. He's like, "Oh, everything looks..." And then there were just smoke and flame and basically an explosion occurred underneath the truck. But it was like a flashbang kind of thing, right? And everyone fled except for that guard who stopped them. The 2 people were then left. The 2 people who were driving the truck left the scene because they thought it was gonna fucking explode. But the guy who was the guard, who was not actually a guard, he was just posing as one, gets in the truck and leaves. So, he steals about 300 million yen, roughly to the tune of $800,000 at the time, on just pure subterfuge. He was never seen again. No one knows who did it. We just know how it was done. It's so clever. It's so clever. Now, notably, I'm not endorsing calling in bomb threats anywhere. You shouldn't do that.
Okay? Let's be clear. But you can respect, in Minecraft, you can respect the subterfuge. You can respect the subterfuge in Minecraft. Okay? I love this one. I think this one's fucking hilarious. It's a very short, sweet story, but it goes to show that if you're just like familiar with how to do the bit, right? If you have a bit, if you have an idea, if you have a specific moment and you make that go right, sometimes that's enough. But you should always do your planning. Now, you know, it's interesting actually that we just talked about an armored truck, because I have another armored truck to tell you about. Okay? I got one more to tell you about. So this is not actually the exact deli in question, but let me tell you now about, to end us off in terms of this little selection of stories, let me tell you about the Brooklyn Delicatessen Caper of 1969. So, there were 3 guards taking a Wells Fargo truck to a bank, right? They were transporting goods and money. And what happened here was that ultimately they decided that they would park their truck and stop outside of a deli, outside of a delicatessen, right, in Brooklyn. So they were transporting about $2 million. They got lunch, and they took shifts having lunch, right? When they finished having lunch, they came back to the truck, and they were held at gunpoint and handcuffed within the car, at which point they were driven to a local neighborhood by the people who were holding them at gunpoint, where out of the $2 million, the people took $1.37 million and transported it to a nearby vehicle that they had prepared prior. The thieves were never found. Now, of course, you might be wondering, why did they only take 1.37 million when they could have taken 2 million? This is because of the fact that they got a little bit rattled, a little bit jostled by the fact that because they drove it to a residential area in Brooklyn, some housewives were like looking at them and watching this happen, and were like, "Hey, what are you doing?" So they left the other $700,000. But I gotta say, a lot of these are from the late 60s. There's 1, 2, 3. That one kind of counts. 71. Three of the different heists that we looked at today were from the late 60s, early 70s. And I gotta say, folks, you could just do shit back then. You could just get away with whatever. If you had, like, a hint of subterfuge... D.B. Cooper happened around then, too. If you had, like, a hint of subterfuge, anything at all, you could get away with it. There were no records. There was, like, nothing. How do you think I did it? Man, it was a better time. These days you got so much you have to deal with. The DB Tuber case. I haven't. But yes. It was a golden age of just stealing shit in the late 60s, early 70s. It was really excellent. Of course, people are much more, around the early 2000s, people got a little bit more creative with certain things. But people have always been creative about stealing stuff. But if you wanted to go off-grid, you just walked into the fucking forest and set up shop. Yeah, right? I have so much you will have to do. So annoying. It has a huge twist ending. Interesting. DB Tuber, I'll keep that in mind. But, so folks, that concludes my little brief lecture on some thefts throughout history for you. But I'm not done tonight, because I've only streamed for about an hour, and I want to go play Metal Gear Solid. Because, folks, I have to play... I have Signalis to play next week, which I am officially announcing here on this stream. Where did it go? I had it a moment ago. Yes, because I'm playing Signalis next week in order to get the book. Because we need a hook, a book, a bolt, and a hook, a bolt, a book, and a heart. And we're going to get the book from Signalis. So, I'm going to be playing Signalis next week. So tonight, I want to finish Metal Gear Solid 2, or I want to try to make some more progress on Metal Gear Solid 2, such that I can get some more. Hopefully, we're going to try to finish it tonight, but we might not. So, I am going to send us to the BRB screen. I'm going to get myself a warm beverage. I implore you all to do the same. And I hope that you'll meet me here just a little bit, right? I'm going to run an ad while we're there, just so we don't immediately come back to it. I'll be back in a little while, okay? I'll be back in like 5-10 minutes or something. Alright. I'll see you then. Thank you very much for joining me for this, by the way. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for letting me come here and tell you about funny things throughout history. I'd like to do something, a few more things like this in the future. Let me know if you liked this kind of format. I'll look into doing like much more in-depth research on stuff in the future. That's something that we're interested in. Kind of like gallery streams, but like much, much more chill. Big fan of the mushroom theft story. It's lovely. The Black Truffle Heist of 2005 is hilarious. Just on principle. It's funny. Anyway, though. I'll see you on a minute. Thank you very much for being here. Don't touch that dial.